Have you ever wondered why our voice sounds so different when we hear it on a recording? Or how come it is so hard to stalk and kill a fly? Today I've put together some super common things that people encounter every day but never question what the explanation is. Watch till the end because I'm sure this episode will impress you. Welcome, knowledge seekers, to FactFrenzy, where we uncover the extraordinary in the ordinary. Today, we're delving into the realm of education to reveal 15 simple facts you won't find in your textbooks. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to FactFrenzy for more captivating content that challenges conventional wisdom. Number 1. Why don't cats listen to us? The second most common pet after the dog is the cat, which you can't get to obey a command. They will just ignore you. Often they won't even turn to you when called. Be sure it hears you and recognizes your voice, but pretends to be mad because the commands don't suit it. Scientists explain this phenomenon not by lack of brain capacity, but by the fact that the cat as an animal has never been tamed by man to do any work. Rather, they have domesticated and attached to humans themselves for their personal gain. They believe that we are their domesticated pets and consider themselves masters. You know the saying, the dog says, "He feeds me, caresses me, cares for me, he must be a god." While the cat says, "He feeds me, caresses me, cares for me, I must be a god." Drop me a comment, do you have a cat or a dog? Number 2. Why when you shake a soda it spurts? You've done that trick, haven't you? You shake a can and give it to a friend just to look at his face. But did you know why when you shake fizzy drinks, they gush and spray everywhere? Often people think that by shaking a bottle or a can, we increase the pressure inside, and that's the reason it almost explodes. Wrong, though. The pressure remains the same. What shaking does is put microbubbles in the liquid, which accelerates the release of carbon dioxide many times when we screw the cap. When we open it, the carbon dioxide binds to the bubbles we made in the liquid faster and therefore comes out faster, pulling everything out. To avoid this, we just have to let the drink sit to the side to calm down a bit and the bubbles we made disappear. Number 3. Why do our fingers wrinkle? You may not have noticed that our fingers and toes wrinkle. Or as many say, turn into a mushroom upon prolonged contact with water. Most people think that they get soaked and that is why they wrinkle in waves, but the truth is different. Our nerve receptors send a signal to the brain that there is increased humidity around us. It in turn tells itself that it is probably also slippery, so it wrinkles the skin only on our limbs. This allows a much better grip in the new wetter environment rather than being a signal to get out of the water. Scientists believe this mechanism is an evolutionary holdover from our ancestors, who spent more time in the water. Number 4. Why is it so difficult to kill a fly? Have you ever wondered how come flies and other insects constantly elude you? A 2013 study showed that the more primitive an insect's vision is, the faster information from the eyes is processed by their brain. Thus, scientists concluded that for flies, for example, time flows somehow slower and therefore they have more reaction time. They are quick to understand what is happening around them and everything seems to be in slow motion. This gives them quite an advantage in avoiding danger. But some remain distracted. Number 5. How does coffee energize us? For some of us, the day just doesn't start until we've had our morning coffee. We know about its effects and the energy it gives us, but did you know that the processes to get that energy are much more complicated than you thought? When we feel tired, one of the reasons for that is that the accumulation of adenosine in our body, which is responsible for maintaining sleep, can inhibit waking. The more time we spend awake, the more it builds up in our body and so puts us to sleep. Caffeine does two things to our bodies. First, it blocks the buildup of adenosine, and second, it increases the levels of hormones such as cortisol and dopamine. One is for stress and the other for joy. So the overall energy of your body is increased. So caffeine stimulates certain energy-giving processes in our body, rather than just a liquid to break down in the stomach and get our energy directly from it. Number 6. The fight against sweating. Many people think that deodorant and antiperspirant are synonymous. They work the same way and have the same effect on our body. To fight against the negative of sweating, a person's sweat has no smell, per se. It is like water. What makes it smell is the bacteria on our skin. Most deodorants fight and neutralize the bacteria and therefore the smell from them. Antiperspirants affect the sweating process itself. They seal the sweat glands and thus reduce the secretion of fluid for a time. These days there is a combination of both, but these products are usually considerably more expensive. Number 7. Why is it so quiet when it snows? Have you ever felt how when it snows, the noisy boulevards seem to become quiet and somehow everything around you is muffled? Turns out there is a scientific explanation for why snow is associated with peace and quiet. When it snows and starts to pile up, it traps a lot of air in small compartments. So the sound is trapped and doesn't bounce off as it does in the rain, for example. Snowflakes falling from the sky also muffle the sound waves. And their fall to the ground is quiet compared to rain, for example. Even in heavy snowfall, not much noise is emitted. If you want to keep learning such interesting facts, then subscribe to the channel. It is completely free, and if you tick the bell, it will notify you when I upload something new. Number 8. Why do we shake hands? Every day, even more than once, we have to shake someone's hand. But have you ever wondered why we use this particular gesture to greet each other? Why don't we, for example, pat each other on the cheeks or slap each other? It would be hilarious. The first evidence of a handshake comes from the 9th century BC. And back then it was a gesture that you were not armed and that you would not attack. I mean, you're friendly. Times were certainly different, but this gesture somehow remained in the subconscious of a person. That you demonstrate good intentions and that you will not stab him, for example. Number 9. Why do we have a groove between the nose and the upper lip? That thing right above our upper lip and below our nose is called a filtrum. For most people, it's just a generally accepted fact to have it just like that. Scientists, however, have searched for years for its meaning and an answer to why it is present in every person. At one time, they probably said, well, here it is because parts of the face merge at this spot, and the muscles are deformed. That is, however, according to recent studies, the filtrum may help maintain good moisture levels in our nose. You know, a moist nose senses smells much better, so in the bathroom or spa, this sense is much more heightened for us. So be careful with the gases released. Number 10. Why does hot and cold water make different sounds? You have probably noticed that when you pour yourself a glass of water, you can tell just by the sound it makes whether it is hot or cold. However, did you know scientifically where this difference comes from? Simply put, the sound comes from the bubbles when pouring. The water itself cannot make a sound. The difference in it comes from the density of the water, or more accurately, its viscosity. Cold water is considerably denser than warm water, and this allows for the creation of larger bubbles when poured, whose rupture produce a lower frequency sound. The opposite is true for warm water. Smaller bubbles with a higher frequency sound. So we can distinguish between the two. Some scientists claim that the steam from the warm water itself also changes the sound passing through it even briefly. If you find what I'm doing interesting, hit the like button so the video will reach more people. Thank you. Number 11. Why does our voice sound very different when recorded? We all think we can sing until we hear ourselves on the microphone. Have you noticed how different our voice is when we hear it in a video, for example? Well, I have to tell you something. A recording is a much more accurate sonic representation of our voice than what we hear while we speak. But here's why. The people around us as well as the microphones on the devices hear the sound waves of our voice carried through the air. However, we hear both them and the internal acoustics in our head. Everything we say reverberates in our skull as a low-frequency sound that only we ourselves can pick up. This is why our voice is usually much shriller than we imagine. When we have a cold, it is even more obvious, because our nose is clogged and our head is downright resounding. Number 12. Why does the smell of grass clippings attract us so much? Even now, having said that your brain is trying to reconstruct that smell, we normally associate with freshness with nature and with happiness. When the grass is cut, heaps of organic matter are dispersed through the air, which warns the rest of the plants around that danger is coming and helps to recover from the wounds. This smell is pleasant to us because it contains hydrocarbons and alcohol. Our receptors also react positively to these organic compounds, and that's why we feel good when someone around us mows, even though the grass actually screams in agony through them. Number 13. Why do birds fly in V formation? You have probably noticed flocks of birds high in the sky flying in V formation. But did you know that there is a reason for this, which by the way has been proven recently by science? It turns out that this formation is an energy-saving technique. The first bird swirls the air with each flap of its wings, directing a jet upwards, which is intercepted by the next bird. This is why the leader at the head of the V changes often with the others, because he gets the most tired. It turns out that the other birds behind use about 25–30% less energy this way and last longer in flight. For people who watch or practice cycling, maybe they know this fact. Absolutely everything in nature is naturally calculated. We can only learn from it. Number 14. Why do they take blood from our ring finger? I know it's quite unpleasant to have our blood taken, but sometimes we have to. When they are not trying to target our veins, the lab technicians most often take blood from the ring finger, and there is a reason for that. The tendons of the thumb and little finger are more closely connected to the wrist. And if there is an infection, it will affect the whole hand, so they drop out. The index and middle fingers are used much more often by humans, and therefore our skin is rougher there. Therefore, when poking it will be much more painful. The ring finger has the most tender skin and is the least used, therefore the risk of infection is the lowest. Number 15. Why do we get sick when we travel? Tell me with a quick comment. Do you get sick while traveling, especially if there are turns? I won't even mention seasickness, which causes even more discomfort. We have kind of accepted the fact that we get queasy and don't ask why it happens. You would be surprised, but the reason why we get sick is in our inner ear. There are two saccules known as saccule and utricle, filled with fluid that transmits to the brain whether there is no stability or imbalance. This whole thing is called the vestibular apparatus, and it helps us keep our balance. When we are in a car, the vestibular apparatus detects movement in the form of swaying, but on the other hand, the body stays still. This confuses our brain, which is flooded with conflicting information from our sensors. Either we are standing still or we are swaying as if we are moving, and the situation changes before our eyes. For this, our body reacts with dizziness, nausea, and general discomfort. Strangely, some experts recommend pretending to drive and keeping your head upright. And there you have it. 15 simple facts that you will not learn in school. We hope you enjoyed this journey with FactFrenzy. Remember, the quest for knowledge never ends. Keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep learning. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to FactFrenzy for more intriguing content. Until next time, stay curious.